Good morning to all those rose lovers. Welcome back to my garden. We are in 18th of May 2025 and look at that, what a glorious Sunday today. I am out in my garden early today as my lady Green Finger sister's having a barbecue. So I'm going to be nosing around in her garden. And as you can see, a lot of my roses are in pots and containers. And there isn't anything wrong with them having in the containers, of course, as long as they are fed regularly and watered regularly. But only downside is your garden end up looking like a garden centre, and you can't go on long spell of holidays without them being watered regularly. Fortunately for me, I've set up a dripping system for all my potted roses for my holiday in July, so that's going to come really handy. And today I'm just going to wander around in my garden and show you what is in bloom, some early bloomers which I don't like to miss, and just generally talk about some roses in containers and things what we should look out for. So let's get started. I dug up 5 bare roots which I planted over the winter. They were in the worst locations you can imagine. There was no sun whatsoever, and they all struggled to survive, to thrive. I mean, they only put out some very minimal green growth. This is what is it? This is Timeless Charisma, and I'm quite surprised some of the leaves are not droopy. It isn't in some sort of shock. When I first dug it up, the root ball, well, there wasn't any root ball. The root system was exactly the same the first day I planted it. And this one, which I dug up a couple of weeks ago, has started to sprout new growth. And if I hadn't done that in time, they would have died. This is White Parfumeur de Provence. And that is another White Parfumeur de Provence. I think I've got all the white parfumers in the Milan range. I think they do a sweet one, a red one, a black one, and a white one. And the fragrance on it is just so mind-blowing good. And Coco Loco, the bloom on this one is almost perfect. The color is just so extraordinary. Beautiful. The thing is with hybrid tea roses, their blooms tend to change. 2 more days, once all these petals open up, it'll look quite horrible. But today, this is almost perfect. And Daniel Hill here is in semi-shade. A rose that likes to be in semi-shade. It does have a lot of buds, and I think these buds are damaged from me spraying a lot of the tile cleaners on it. And some of these buds does have a lot of aphids. This year there's a lot of aphids in my garden, and I know a lot of people will tell you that aphids don't do harm to your roses. But believe me, through my experience, aphids will kind of suck the moisture from these very new buds, and eventually they become very deformed. So I tend to remove my aphids with a brush as much as I can in the morning. And you need an army of ladybirds to devour all the aphids. Almost an impossible task. Strawberry Hill here and James Galway is in a very semi-shaded area just as well, because these 2 roses do not like to be in the sun. I don't like the look of the Strawberry Hill. The growth is very straggly. But the scent is just really lovely, very strong myrrh scent. And James Galway only has a light scent, but the bloom, look at that, is so beautiful. I think this is probably my shadiest part of the garden now, even though it does get at least 4 or 5 hours sun. With the sycamore tree now really gone, my whole new garden has really come to life. And once there used to be shade, it's now full sun now. It's really totally transformed my garden. And Olivia Rose Austin, and always one of the first one to produce flowers. I know some of you say your Olivia is quite droopy. Mine isn't, and I'll just show you my other one as well. I think droopy is probably because it's quite newly planted and the root isn't established. But this is one of the most popular rose in anyone's garden, and very healthy. A rose that doesn't have any scent, in my opinion, under my nose anyway. And here are some of my potted roses. Some of these are, this one is a Bliss Parfumer, and this one here with a very dark bud is Fruity Parfumer. And a very useful tip to remember is when you are planting your roses in a pot, just make sure you fill up the soil all the way up to the brim, because eventually every time you water, the soil will eventually slowly run down along with the water. So it's important that you really need to fill the pot up with soil. A lot of my roses are only left with 70% of the soil, so eventually I will need to, you know, remove it all and just top it up with soil. And this one is Penelope Lively. Lovely rose, and it really has grown on me a lot, really. When I first had this rose, it was very droopy, and I just kind of didn't like it, but now it's really produced some very long canes and a lot of buds. And what I find with bare roots, I think they do grow quicker and thrive quicker being in a pot rather than being in the ground. And that's through my experience anyway. And this is Evelyn. Evelyn is about to come into flower. That is planted from a bare root, and a lot of the bare roots I planted in the ground are nowhere as far as this one. And let's have a quick view of the garden. And this is Duchess of Cornwall. Duchess of Cornwall. That reminds me of a joke. I'm going to give it my best shot. So in UK we have we call our highway called motorway, and there are 3 lanes. First lane is a very slow lane. Middle lane is for overtaking, and the third lane is for overtaking also, but you're not supposed to be hogging on that lane for a long period of time. So one day there's this Duchess was hogging on third lane. Bear with me. And because she's hogging on third lane, you can't overtake her. So what do? Well, I'll tell you what I would do is pass the Duchess on the left hand side. Okay, I guess you didn't fall off your chair laughing then. Just one of these, that song was by a group of young lads back in the early 80s called Musical Youth. It just reminds me of back in the days when I was growing up. So yeah, Duchess of Cornwall, lovely rose. It's becoming a very common rose in this country. I think everybody is buying up this rose. This is a Black Parfumeur de Provence by Milland, and only planted back in autumn, and it's produced a few buds. And this is quite a slow growing one, I've been told, and something you would never expect on the bare root is something as bushy as Lady Gardener here. That would take at least 1 or 2 years before it gets as fully bushy as this one. And Grace, lovely Grace, lot of blooms on her. And this is Dame Judi Dench, previously in a ground and struggling, and it's really thrived since I've moved it to the pot. And this one is a rose called Souvenir Baden-Baden. Odd name, odd name, and a very compact version of Meteor. Lovely glossy green leaves. I've got 2 of these, and I really love this rose, really love it. And down there I've got a couple of Madame Isaac Perrier that is not in flower just yet, and then 2 blush noisettes, and Bring Me Sunshine. Look at that, Bring Me Sunshine. It is almost 6 foot tall, and previously it was in the pot, and I knew it was just kind of struggling, but it really is so much happier now being in the ground. And this one is a rose called Lady Capri, and that's doing very well. And this one is Princess Charlotte de Monaco. Well, I was at my sister yesterday having a barbecue, and she had the Princess Charlene in a pot, and I was so blown away by its beauty and the fragrance. So I will be getting another 1 or 2, and those will be in a pot. And behind there is a rose called Perennial Blue, almost like a wisteria version of a rose. This one, lovely, one of the most vigorous, prolific rose in my garden. And if you have a fence that is quite bland, put that rose there, and it really fills it up pretty quickly. And that is Compassion, monster of a rose. I don't feed that rose whatsoever. I don't think I want to, because it's just so big already. This is a very common rose in this country. A lovely, gorgeous scent. And these petals, I don't like the way they fold. Yeah. So I won't be feeding this rose, not in a very near future, because it's just getting too big. Oh, and what is in flower is, right, my mind's gone. Yeah, Molyneux. This is a Molyneux. I've trained it more like a standard rose. It's a climber, but it looks like a standard tree rose right now, which is quite nice actually. I don't really have many standard trees, and I struggle to keep them alive with standards. And there is a lady called Dilly, a dog and a rose, and she has tons and tons of standards. And this one is a rose called Chandos Beauty, and by Harkness. Harkness have brought out a new rose this year, named after the Princess of Wales. Has a lovely salmon colour with Turkish Delight scent with a hint of mango. But I tell you what, at £37, including postage, that's a hefty price to pay on the rose. So I'm just gonna nip to the shop and get some Turkish Delight and some mango and smell that instead. And this one is one of my most fragrant roses in my garden. This is Wallerton Old Hall. Very strong mauve scent, and one of the most strongest mauve scent in the rose kingdom, I reckon. And eventually that would climb up around the rose arbor with Spirit of Freedom. This is Gertrude Jekyll. This is a bush form of Gertrude. This is Summer Song. I've got 2 blooms from Summer Song so far. Last year I had a huge verbena growing alongside it, and I decided to dig it out because it was just taking so much nutrient from this rose. And look at that. Since removing that verbena, it's produced 2 new basil shoots, and that's never happened for a long time. And when you do have a container potted rose, just try not to put too many plants alongside your rose, because they really don't like being sharing. Yeah, they don't like to share the nutrient. And this one is a Emily Bronte, and I'm just going to give you an example. This is a potted Emily Bronte. Look at that. It is really lovely and bushy compared to the one in the ground. The one in the pot is just doing so much better. So it really goes to show having a rose in the pot isn't really always that bad. It just depends how you look after it. And obviously finding a compact variety is always a good idea. And this one is Timeless Purple. This one is Silas Marner. And climbing along that fence, holding on to its dear life, clinging on to its dear stems, is Strawberry Hill. This is one of the least favorite roses in my garden. This is Claire Austin. Claire Austin is a upright climbing rose, and this rose really does nothing for me. These blooms shattered so quickly under the heat. And yeah, I just really don't like this rose that much. Other than being an upright climbing rose, this just does nothing for me. And just look at some of the roses in my middle border. This is Princess Alexandra of Kent. And this is Sister Emmanuel. I was hoping this one would really eventually thrive in this area of the garden. And filling up this area is Bring Me Sunshine. And this is the growing habit of this rose is very tall. And this next one is Gabriel Oak. One of my top 5 favorite roses, David Austin roses in my garden. Fantastic fragrance, extremely healthy, gorgeous. I'm allowed to use that word because I've used it too many times, I think. This is another prolific rose in my garden, is Summer Romance. This is by Cordes. Very prolific. Has a scent that I can't describe. Not very strong, but I just don't know how to describe that scent. And this is another very good rose, is Port of Sunlight. Really filling out the middle part of my border there. And Desdemona, a very popular rose among rose growers. Lovely strong old rose scent. And towering above everybody else is Bathsheba. I don't know what steroids that rose is on. I want to keep some for myself. Look at it, it is huge. So big, I don't know even how to deadhead that rose. And this is Royal Jubilee. And equally as impressive and proliferous. And this is Queen of Sweden. For me, I have a love-hate relationship with this rose as well. These blooms are very pretty, but very, very small compared to the size of these stems. This is like a, let me put it, a young 18-year-old secretary dressed in her working clothes, and opposed to Lady of Shalott. She is quite wild, so this would be her dressed in a going out clothes on a weekend with her friends. I know what I'd rather have. And I'm not going to tell you. Yes, Lady of Shalott. Gorgeous, beautiful rose. This is James L. Austin. A very, very similar growing habit to Gabriel Oak. Very upright. And a very, very good rose in my opinion. No doubt about it. It is a stunning rose. This is Alnwick Rose. I'll just show you that one bloom. Has a another lovely old rose fragrance as well. And last but not least is Olivia Rose Austin. And some of the people have said their blooms tend to droop, but mine doesn't. You can see there. And perhaps it is not established. Mine is. It's almost 4 years old. And down here is one of my favorite roses of all time in my garden. This is Princess Alexandra of Kent. Look at that beautiful flower. Rose that has lovely scent. Was in 3rd place alongside Boscobel last year for the most fragrant rose in my garden. And I've got 3 of these dotted around in my garden. And this is Rodal, and by David Austin. A lot of my David Austin roses in my garden are David Austin. But this year I've not bought that many David Austin. I've gone for other breeders such as Tantau, a lot of Milan, 2 Leonardo da Vinci there, and behind that peony is a rose called Poseidon. I know Poseidon likes to be in the shade, so ideally that's probably the best location, the only location. And flowering here is a rose called Boscobel. What a stunning rose this is. Stunning fragrance. And in fact, these blooms look almost identical to Princess Alexandra of Kent. Both stunning. Mum in a Million. And I've got one bloom from Sweet Honey on that far side of the fence, producing one stem with a clusters of buds. And Pierre de Ronsard, also known as Eden. Mingling alongside is Jasmina by Cordes. Jasmina produces clusters of medium-sized blooms. And that big blousy one there is called Just Joey. Lady of Shalott. And Lady of Shalott this year have decided to have a scent, a medium scent. I've never thought there was any scent from this rose. I'm gonna yeah, has a light to medium scent, that one. And this one is Wollerton Old Hall. Wollerton Old Hall is very, very congested in there. It felt like a good idea to plant that rose down there. But I have a lot of fresh growth and even basil canes down. I'm tempted to dig it up and put it somewhere else, but I don't. There is no somewhere else, I'm afraid. And down here, if mistaken, this may be a Gertrude, but it isn't a Gertrude. This is another Princess Alexandra of Kent. Very similar colour, but different flower formation. There's an open bloom. You know, roses are very clever, like many living things in this world. Roses sometimes sends out a kamikaze bloom. They send it out just to test what the climate is like, whether it's safe for them to come out. It's a bit like sending a lone soldier to the front enemy lines to check for information. And that lone soldier will eventually be shot by a sniper. And just like one of the blooms that Gertrude sent out, it never opened properly, almost like very deformed. But the time is right. They're all blooming. This is Emily Bronte, and Emily Bronte over there is doing so much better than the one in the ground. I will just show you in a minute. I'll get to that. And this is Raspberry Cupcake. Raspberry Cupcake by Cordes. Gorgeous colour and a lovely scent. So, do you see any difference in that? That is Blue Moon. Blue Moon is a week's rose, I think. I've not had much luck with this rose. And Eustacia Vi. I've had a lot of luck with this rose. And a yellow one there, I do not know what that is. And my Asian pear tree, producing a lot of small fruits. This one is Summer Song. Summer Song is a David Austin rose. I am getting some bloom this year. Last year, I had a very enormous verbena growing in that pot, and I decided to remove that verbena. And look, Summer Song has decided to give me new basil shoots, 2 of them in fact, and that's never happened before. And a tip is, never plant too much stuff alongside your roses, especially in a pot, because roses don't like to share. And Emily Bronte here is really looking fabulous in a pot even. You see that one there versus this one. This one is just so much more bushy, and goes to show that having roses in pot is never a bad thing. It all depends how you water and feed it. And for me, I've had so much luck having roses in pots. They just do so much better in pots. Well, obviously not always, it depends the type of variety. So the smaller compact ones are really ideal for a pot. This bloom is from Silas Mana, and this is Timeless Purple. Another pear tree, Asian pear. That is Pilgrim. Pilgrim, I've not had much luck with Pilgrim, and I don't blame it, because it's probably not its fault, my fault more like it. And this is another Strawberry Hill, dangling along that fence. Well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for your time. I think this video was probably one of the longest one I've ever made, because it's just so much to talk about and just, well, quite a lot to show you. Unfortunately, not all my roses are in flower, and once they're all in flower, I will give you a proper rose tour, and I will let you have a view at once where that sycamore tree used to be. And now you can see that really big oak tree right at the back. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all have a lovely day.